Everyone, Broheen here from the Gamers Emporium channel. How's it going today? Very excited to bring you a new spec. I may be a little bit late to the dinner here, but the spec is Reaver. I'm my warrior, level 65. Just got to 65 today. Decked him out in all blues, except minus the earrings. But I figured I'd call it good enough for a video on Reaver. So let's take a look at the soul tree. Soul tree goes 61 Reaver, 8 Tempest, 7 Paragon. So fill up Reaver, the Tempest tree, 5 in Amped, 3 in Enhanced Power. Paragon tree, 5 in Teaching of the 5 Rings, and 2 in Weapon Familiarity. Masteries go as follows. 61 is Dying Breath, 62 is Physiology Proficiency. Now that one I used because I soloed my way to 65 more or less using Reaver whenever I could, so I did a lot of self-heals, and it came down to either this one or Soul Regeneration. I chose Physiology Proficiency so I could heal myself a little better by 5%, but for in a raid setting I would say use Soul Regeneration, so I'm actually going to switch it to that. 63, Gladiator Combat Training, give you a little run speed. 64, use Precision Strikes, and 65, use Power Manipulation. Now that's debatable. You can get another cooldown. You can use Power Variation if you want. However, I would say switch between the two. Use Power Variation if you're going to be doing AOE damage with the Plaguebringer toggled buff that you get with Reaver. We'll go more in depth with that later, but for now we're going to stick with Power Manipulation for the entirety of this video. So save and exit, pull up macros. There is literally 3 macros, 2 of them, actually really only one of them that is a necessity for it. The other 2, like this AOE and Snare macro, I literally just have for convenience. So the one macro that you definitely need is going to be your main spam or builder, if you will. That's going to be cast itself Power Manipulation, cast Infestation, cast Explosive Infestation, and cast Ravaging Strike. Your AOE macro that I have is cast itself Power Manipulation, cast Shadow of Dread, cast Explosive Infestation, cast Rancid Cleave. And the reason why Shadow of Dread is in there is just because it's a little bit easier to manage all in one button. It does have a cooldown and you want to refresh it every 15 seconds anyways, so you might as well have it in there. You could take it out if you want, but this is the way I'm running it. Completely up to you. It's just literally so it's not so complex. But I do keep Shadow of Dread on the bar for when I do single target, because single target is really where the spec counts. And then the Snare is just cast at GTAE Stumbling Morass. So get out of here and let's take a look at the bar setup. So when looking at my bars, it seems pretty full, but really it's not so bad. My new layout for the bars is the first bar is all my buffs. The second bar is anything extra that I can shift click, like the AOE, 2 AOE damage abilities, more dots, maybe a couple cooldowns, and some utility. And then the main bar itself is my primary single target cast. I label the first spot here with Binding Affliction. Here, this will be your buffs, by the way. Binding of Affliction, Pestilence, Empower, Enhanced Conductivity, Way of the River, and then obviously I use the Archaic Tablet, Petrified Rune, and Renewing Seed. You might as well have them on the bar and refresh every 15 minutes. It's extra DPS, so why not, right? Then this bar, I've got my AOE macro and an AOE finisher, Desecrating Blow. And then I've got the 4 dots that I can put up manually, which is Flesh Rot, Necrotic Wounds, Soul Sickness, and Dire Corruption, and it's separated that way just because I've been too lazy to switch my key bindings for the F and Shift F to move over to these 2 spots. So it looks kind of funny, but oh well. So Plaguebringer is here. This is the toggle ability, which I was talking to you about. It makes all your Reaver damage over time abilities affect up to an additional 7 enemies. So it basically turns a single target Reaver spec into a single target roll. So Crest of Entropy is up here for, that's just a Absorb Shield. You could use that on cooldown if you like, especially when soloing. I found myself not really using it that much because 3,900 damage in this environment for like Dromheim and Targon Glacier doesn't really matter. So the main bar, however, set up with Infestation, Dire Blow, Shadow of Dread, and Viral Stream. Those are like the main abilities that you absolutely need on the bar. Then So spam, this is my single target finisher. Shadow of Dread applies all known Reaver damage over time, or dots. And then Viral Stream is your hardest hitting ability. Its channel generates 3 attack points, and I'll teach you how to use that in a moment. There is some utility down here, like Shadow Warp. You get a teleport. We got our Snare macro. It's an AOE Snare. You do get a little bit of a stealth for, I think, 6 seconds. Yep, 6 seconds. So you can easily take yourself out of combat. And then we have an interrupt on the bar. So this spec literally has just about everything. So all it's missing is maybe a purge. But you can't ask for everything. So, alright, let's take a look at the rotation. Okay, so rotation-wise, a little theory behind it. Let's pull up the abilities here. I'll go through this very quick, so pay attention. You have your regular damage Infestation, so you cast that, and after that's what I start off with. You cast Infestation, and after 2 seconds, it deals X amount of damage, increased by 45%, depending on how many dots are up. So it's very crucial that right after you cast Infestation, you cast Shadow of Dread immediately after, because by the time that second global cooldown is over, Infestation is going to tick, and it's going to hit really fucking hard. So it's probably going to tick around like 75 to 80k. Which you really don't want to miss that window. So you always want to start off with Infestation and then Shadow of Dread followed behind it. That should put you up to 2 attack points. Then you continue with the Builder and you'll lay down an Explosive Infestation, which is actually an AOE, but it deals enough damage and it's like a countdown effect. So after 8 seconds it'll deal the X amount of damage there. It says 12,000-ish damage, increased by 45% per dot on the enemy yet again, except this one's AoE, but it's still enough damage to make it count for single target that it's easily applied in the macro and very viable. So it just doesn't happen for 8 seconds. So by the time you're into the rotation, it's actually around like 10 seconds. You could do Explosive Infestation first as an opener, which I may recommend. So maybe keep it on your bar first. I'm not going to do it in this video, but maybe keep Explosive Infestation on your bar to start for the opening rotation with Explosive Infestation, so that way that countdown starts and you get more of the damage closer to the beginning of the rotation rather than further towards the middle. So you can do that, your choice. I'm choosing not to mess with it because, again, I'm not a min-maxer. I'm just kind of trying to teach you the easiest way to play the spec with as little thought as possible. So after your Explosive Infestation is down, you should have 3 attack points, so you're going to use a Dire Blow, and then once you do your first Dire Blow, you're going to hit Viral Stream, let that channel out for 3 seconds, then hit another Dire Blow, and then you're going to cast your Spam, which should pretty much be 3 Ravaging Strikes in a row at that point, and then use a Dire Blow, and by then the rotation's pretty much starting over. So you'll hit with the Infestation again and a Shadow of Dread right behind it, so on and so forth. As long as you keep Shadow of Dread up off cooldown and Viral Stream on cooldown and constantly spamming your Builder and then Finisher, you'll never have to worry about your dots falling off, because what's nice in your Masteries level 63, that bottom part here says cooldown of Viral Stream is reduced by 9 seconds, and then your level 64 also increases the duration of damage over time effects. So this means that instead of 15 seconds, you're going to be getting about 20-ish seconds or so out of these. So instead of them expiring after 15 seconds and having to be reapplied, you kind of have a little bit of a window that you don't need to cast Shadow of Dread immediately, so that way you can focus more on, like, if you have a Viral Stream coming up and you still have 4 to 5 seconds left on your dots, you can prioritize Viral Stream over your dots for that time being without a DPS loss. Makes sense? So let's take a look at the rotation then. Okay, so we've prepped for combat, we've cleared the meter, and we're going to take it away. I'm going to do about a minute to a minute and a half parse. For the record, I did do a 3-minute parse earlier, and again, in the gear that I have with only 3,500 strength, and not a lot of crit power, somewhat okay, not really much physical crit, honestly. There's not much there right now because I am missing earrings, I'm missing a synergy crystal, missing all my runes, so, and to be able to pull, 28 to 29k and stay consistent with it, over a 3-minute rotation was actually pretty good. So you'll do very good in expert dungeons, right off the get-go once you get 800 hit. So we're gonna attack this expert boss dummy, and we're gonna do exactly how I explained earlier. So follow along, check it out, keep your eye on the meter, and I'll try to talk through what I'm doing here. So we're gonna open up. First hit of the spam builder is gonna be the arcane manipulation. Then you're gonna infestation, shadow of dread, builder again, use dire blow. Follow up with viral stream, use your dire blow, and then it's just spam from there. So if you look at the little counter that I have to the right over here, you're going to see that the dots aren't off, but I'm going to refresh them anyways. So they last for quite some time. By the time you come around with your 3 Ravaging Strikes and a dire blow, it doesn't line up exactly perfect, but you'll be able to follow up back in a viral stream, and we prioritize that because those dots have the extra length. Now, none of them fell off there in that little 5-second window, and I was able to get a full viral stream channel plus a finisher up before I really needed to refresh the dots. So if you take a look over on the left for the DPS meter, we're doing 28 to 29k. It might dip down a little bit, so, and because I'm talking, I almost let those dots fall off. So just be conscious of it. Maybe set a K alert. K alerts help a lot, but really all you really have to do is my number 3 down here. You're going to want to watch that Shadow of Dread, and every time it comes off cooldown, just reapply it. And you always want to try to get it on, I believe these dots tick on an odd number. Now, I may be wrong, but if they tick on the odd number, you want to try to refresh them on the odd number. It kind of gives that Warlock feel, like from the Mage, when you refresh dots on the odd number, it actually ticks twice, which is pretty sweet. So it's a little bit of a DPS boost, and if you can min-max as much as possible, if you choose, then you'll be able to really increase your damage just based on that. So, okay guys, well, this is how you play Reaver, and it's freaking amazing. So after 2 minutes, a little longer than what I said, we're still maintaining 28k with that really shitty gear that I'm wearing. So you can't really ask for much more. It's a super simple spec, and it's nearly impossible to fuck up. So just pay attention, follow everything I'm doing here, or if you'd like to find another guide, be my guest. I mean, that's up to you. But thanks again for watching, and I appreciate everything you guys do and all your constructive criticism that I get in the comments. And please check us out on Facebook.com. You can search us, called the Gamers Emporium, and like us. We're starting to gain a little bit of foot traction on that, and we'd like to talk to you guys and hear from you and let us know what you think. So thanks again for watching, guys, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks.